My name is Maurizio Travaglini. I'm a European from Rome. And I'm here to introduce the Ideas Lab that will start in about 15 minutes in a room hidden somewhere over there. And I've been invited to explain a few things about what is an Ideas Lab and also why it might be interesting to participate. I'll say a couple of things about me. I'll say a few things about the rationale behind an Ideas Lab, and then I'll show you some images of other Ideas Labs. So those of you who are interested in participating, they may decide to do it. Those who feel like I'm allergic to this kind of thing, they may run away. I am a consultant and a facilitator. My office is in Milan. We operate mostly in the Boston area too, Paris, Barcelona. We run sessions in 5 continents. And the subject of our work is that fuzzy area called innovation that we'll talk about, but who knows what it is. We have an interesting practice, and for this reason, I've been invited to teach programs at the Harvard Business School, where every year we teach a program called Leading and Building a Culture of Innovation with a professor whose name is Linda Hill. It's a 5.5-day program. The main benefit is you learn about leading and building a culture of innovation. You also spend 6 days without a mobile phone. Leadership and mobile phones, I'm not sure about this. We also teach a program called Leadership and Design Thinking at the Graduate School of Design still at Harvard, and Leading for Innovation at the École des Ponts in Paris, and the European Institute of Design in Barcelona. And the reason why we've been invited to teach these programs and create these programs is because we have an unusual perspective on the relationship between ideas, brains, and environments where we work. So to the question, what is an Ideas Lab, I'm going to start answering with another question. What is an idea? We'll want something new, we won't want innovation, we won't want transformation and change, but what is an idea? Well, an idea is a network, first of all. It's not one idea, it's not one thing that is happening. It's a constellation of neurons, thousands of them, that suddenly fire up in sync with each other. And you know when it's happening, you feel it. I see some of you, yes, yes. And if you don't remember how it feels, ask yourself some questions, because it's important you get this feeling often. And this isn't, when you have an idea, it's the first time that those neurons come together in a new way. That's when an idea is popping up into your consciousness. And this is a language used by scientists. And they don't say that it's happening in your brain. They say it's happening in your consciousness. A little bit different. So this phenomenon that is very important that we sometimes witness and are aware of and we feel in our brain has 2 preconditions. One is that, well, you need to have a network that is large enough so that you can create these new connections. And the second is that this network has to be plastic so that your neurons do not assemblate in the same way all the time. Because it's fairly boring when you think the same thing over and over again. Those are not ideas. That's recycling. So let's talk about the quantity, because I think quantity is good for everybody. Because this box here has got 100 billion neurons. Each one of them has, on average, about 1,000 connections. That's what happens in our brain. It's a fairly powerful machine. In fact, that means 100 trillion connections. That's a fairly big number. In fact, these neural connections represent the most complex and most dense network on Earth. Fairly remarkable box. The Hyperloop is complicated, my friend. This is more mysterious and more complex and more dense. So that is not an issue. The capacity, the amount of neurons that we have, it is a given. Plasticity is a different thing because when a new idea pops up into your mind, there is a sense of novelty that makes the experience magical. We feel it. And we feel it because there is a brand new assembly of the neurons in the brains. And this plasticity, this is how we call it, depends on our ability and our exposure to different sources of inspiration, different people, different ideas, different experiences. Plasticity, the good news is that very recently, in the last 10 years, we learned that our brain is plastic, plasticity, throughout all our life. We thought that our brain stopped being plastic at around 20. And now we learned that it keeps on adapting. And if we use it, it's like a muscle. If we use it, it keeps on being plastic. It keeps on allowing us to learn. But the important thing is that the creative brain behaves differently than a brain that is doing the same thing over and over again. The neurons communicate in a different way, and the networks take on different shapes. So if all we do is doing the same thing over and over again, we lose plasticity. That's why we travel. That's why we go and see different places and work with different companies in different ecosystems, because it keeps our brains plastic. It's why we go back to school and we read. Read is wonderful to keep our brain plastic. Oh, people don't read anymore. All we read is 140 characters on Twitter, right? That doesn't increase our capacity. But that's good profits for Apple and Google and Samsung, etc. But I'm not sure it's good stuff for our brains. So this is what we believe, is that to make your mind more innovative, you have to place it into environments that are similar to the neural networks that are unfolding when you're exploring new possibilities. So the environment where you work has to be similar to what is happening in your brain when you're learning. It's like a mirror thing. So what is the kind of environment and the kind of situations that mimic that kind of messy, chaotic, interesting, lively life that we're talking about, that is happening here, where a lot of stuff is happening in an unpredictable way? Well, this is what we do. And these are some images from some of our ideas labs or innovation labs. And I'm going to go very quickly through these images. This is a car company called SEAT. They're doing its strategy. 100 people from all the different parts of the organization. Marketing people, manufacturing people, HR, technology, digital, all together. This is what we're trying to do. All these different perspectives. The frontline workers, the CEO together, they have different ideas, right? They have different perspectives. They learn. Keeps their brain plastic. The strategy is better. This company, by the way, we did this work in 2016. 2018 was the first year that SEAT turned a profit in its history. And it's doing very well. So you see, all together, earlier you saw them working in groups. That's what is happening today. In this space, this is Alfa Romeo. In this space, you spend some time alone, sometimes in a small group, sometimes all together. And these different experiences allow your brain to stay fresh and active. And we do this normally for 3, 4, or 5 days. Today we're going to have 3 hours only, which is 3 hours of PowerPoint are, horrid, right? I see a counter, I've been speaking for 5 minutes, and everybody wants to run away, I know. But 3 hours where we're working and learning and exchanging and connecting to one another, this is wonderful, and it's not enough. This is a city festival, Urbact, 200 city planners from all over Europe. This is the World Economic Forum. We've been working there for ages, for many years, introducing new spaces for collaboration. This is the young global leaders. Working alone, working in a large group. This is another car plant in Pomigliano. This was the worst plant in Europe, which is a remarkable achievement. And those are 150 frontline workers and engineers and executives working together for 3 weeks to redesign their plant. 2 years later, this is the best plant in Europe for small cars. Highest level of quality. got the gold level in world-class manufacturing. We'll see how long it takes Elon Musk to fix his car plant in Los Angeles. This is this group of people redesigning their machinery, their plants, their organization, their processes. And this is an innovation institute in Jeddah. This is a third architectural firm in the United States designing spaces for themselves. And once again, I want to invite this Idea Factory in Paris, the OECD, policymakers, NGOs. And once again, I'm inviting you to observe these images, to observe the kind of life we try to create that mimics the life of an active brain, of a plastic brain, where things are happening in unpredictable. There's a solid structure. And then there is a messy process in the middle. And that's what's interesting. Other spaces all over the world where we have been trying to do this kind of things. There's Jeep car plants in Detroit. This is our program in Harvard Business School. It's in December. So the point is that certain environments enhance the brain capacity to make new links or associations. And we all crave this kind of environments. And sometimes we create environments that are very steady and linear and boring. And they're perfect for transactional kind of work. Like if you want, if you need to do account receivables, you really want to have a boring desk, low ceiling, and focus light. But if you need to work on strategy and new ideas, you need a space, a nice ceiling, and a lot of stuff, a lot of books, a lot of solicitations for your brain, and a lot of very different people. So this is what Ideas Lab is. It's an environment designed for the creative brain. It is designed for complex problems, so it's not for something simple, because it's too much investment to solve a simple thing. And complex problems require undivided attention. So the invitation to the Ideas Lab is for people who can survive without creating a global conflict without mobile phones for 3 hours. Because if you're dealing with something important, it becomes more important than your mobile phone. If your mobile phone is there all the time, it means it's not important. And this is contagious. All the programs in leadership in the planet, from all the schools, they will say that leadership is about presence. So if you want to practice leadership, practice presence. And if you're competitive, this is a good competition for you guys. Compete to be the most intense and present person in the room. Any room. That makes you a remarkable practitioner in leadership. The most connected person in the room is probably going to be a teenager. You don't want to be like a teenager. This is the Ideas Lab is for a social process that requires several phases. So we begin, and we have a beginning and an end. And that means that we invite you to stay for the whole process. So it's 3 hours. We begin at 11:30, finish at 2:30. I know it's a late lunch, but we have snacks in the room, and it's hopefully worth it your time. I know it's an unusual arrangement, but this was the only arrangement possible. And 3 hours is a minimum to come to closure with the kind of dialogue that we need. So join us if those conditions are fine for you. And if you're curious about this, and if you really care about what we're doing, we are trying to establish some priorities and some thoughts and ideas about the World Urban Forum in 2020. So this is a very important subject for you. And for this reason, we have organized an unusual town hall meeting. So in this room, in the Ideas Lab today, a new town hall meeting, a certain kind of town hall meeting will take place, and I hope you want to join us. That's my 10 minutes, and I look forward to seeing you in about 15 minutes in a room over there. There's signage all over the place, and the outcome of the session will be shared here in the afternoon. Thank you.